Hi and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman and today we are on week 50 of my Scrappy Blocks series. This has been a 52-week series of Scrappy Blocks. Lots of wonderful blocks for you to be able to use your scrap stash. Today you're going to want to pull your 2-inch squares, you're going to want to pull your 3.5-inch squares and some 4-inch squares. Let me show you how this block goes together. Here is the Steps to Glory block. It's just a really fun one. It's basically all squares and triangles. A beautiful block. I think you'll enjoy putting this one together. And I tell you, this would really be beautiful in lots of different scraps as well. If you'll pull the PDF, which is attached in the description box below, it will give you the values and the number and size of all of the squares you're going to want to pull to create this block. And you don't have to follow my example. You can change yours around where maybe your the center squares here that are dark can be light. Just have fun with it. This is your block, your quilt. Enjoy and have fun playing. I always like to give a sample idea of a quilt, and this is one that I've given on the back side of the PDF. It's a beautiful quilt, and that is using 16 blocks. There's 4 across, 4 down, and then there is a pieced border in the inside border, and there's this 1.5-inch white border and a 1.5-inch purple border on that quilt. So just some ideas for you. Have fun with it. See what you can do. For those of you who are new to my channel, these blocks that I've been putting together for the last 50 weeks, they're scrappy blocks and they're based on my speedy solutions to scrap up your stash. There is a video link that I'm going to place in the description box below. It will take you out to the tutorial, the video tutorial, that will show you exactly how to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, and organized so that it is ready to use to make beautiful quilts. And I also have a corresponding patterns book. So between these 2 books, you get a total of 17 beautiful scrappy patterns. You also get the all of the techniques that you need to get your scrap stash ready to go the speedy way. And so that's available, and don't forget to take a peek at that video tutorial out there on my YouTube channel. It will really help you to get your stash all sorted and ready to go so that you can work on some great quilts. For this block, as you have seen in the PDF, and don't forget to download this, save it, print it, however you're working on that. But for this one, you're going to be pulling a few things. I went into my 3.5-inch stash and I pulled some dark squares. So they're the center squares here. These are the dark ones. And again, I mentioned earlier, you can change these values out. They don't have to follow what I've given you on the PDF. This is your block. Have fun with it. I also pulled some 4-inch squares. And what I did with that is I cut them in half and trimmed off a 1/2 inch so that they measured 2 inches by 3.5 inches. And that is going to be for all of these rectangles here. So I had to pull, let's see, how many of these did I pull? I pulled 3 4-inch blocks of these blue, and I cut them in half and trimmed off a 1/2 inch so that I had the 6 rectangles that I needed for this block. And let me move this over here so you can see what I'm pointing to on the block. So these are the 6 rectangles here. And then for these 2 dark rectangles, I pulled a couple of these and I cut that in half, trimmed off a 1/2 inch, so I ended up with a 2-inch wide by 3.5 inch long rectangles for these 2. The rest of it is all 2-inch squares, which I've pulled, and I've pulled some lights, some mediums, some darks. This particular block is predominantly purples and blues, which is very pretty. But the scrappier the better, I say. But just have fun and enjoy using up your scrap stash, putting this together. Now these go together in units, so let's take a peek at how we did that. I do want to mention before I forget, with regard to these rectangle units, if you have 2-inch wide strips, you can absolutely just subcut them into the 3.5-inch rectangles that you need for this block here. That's an easy way to go, but I just simply pulled my 4-inch squares and they were handy, and that's what I used for this. So there's always another way that you can accomplish putting together a block. So with this block, I'm actually putting it together in units. I like to put together 3.5-inch units in this case. So I put together these 2 corner units, which included a dark rectangle, a light, and a dark 2-inch square. I put together these corner units, which were basically 4 patches consisting of 2 darks and 2 lights, or mediums, whatever value you choose to use. And the information is right in my PDF for you. I do have the 2 dark 3.5-inch squares down the center on the diagonal. And then I have 6 of these 3-patch units. They have a rectangle, which is, it measures 2 by 3.5, and then it will finish 1.5 by 3 in the finished quilt. And then I have these white and light blue, or cream and light blue squares. Those are 2-inch squares to create the rest of this, these units. So there are 6 of these units. And then I have 4 of these 4-patch units. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each of those 4 units consist of a dark, 2 of the light blues, and 1 of the lights. So those are the units. It gives you all of that information right here. The 2 corner units with the rectangles, the 2 corner units that have our 4-patch units, these, and then these, step number 3 here shows the 4 of the inside 4 patches, which are here, 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 and here. And then last are the, that's step number 4, would be the 6 remaining 3 patches, and that includes the blue rectangles and these. So those 6 are coming along the diagonal portion of the block. When I put this block together, I piece the units together first, then I lay them in 4 rows, 4 columns, and I web the block together. So let me show you how I do that. I'm going to lay out the block here in front of me so you can see how it's put together. So the first thing I'm going to do is put together my little units that include the rectangle. So there's 2 of them that have the purple rectangle and the purple and cream 2-inch squares. And what you'll see is I've pieced the 2 patches together first, and then I'm simply going to place the 2 patch on top of the rectangle and sew them together. These 2 units are sewn identically with the cream on this side, the purple on that side, and this rectangle on this side here. So make sure when you sew them together they're all sewn properly. Just follow the orientation in the pictures that you see here in the PDF. Now for the other 6 units that include a blue rectangle, 2 of them are oriented like this with the white here, the blue here, and 4 of them are oriented with the white on the bottom and the blue on the top there. So if you'll take a look, these are different. These 2 units here are going to surround the inside of the block, and the other 4 will continue following the diagonal squares around this. So I'm going to make sure as I'm piecing these, I'm going to piece my 2 patches first. Then I'm going to make sure that this 2 patch is oriented on that side on top of this, and this on top of this in that orientation so that everything works out perfectly in the block. Very quickly, I'll show you that I have all of my 2 patches sewn together. Now I'm going to just simply sew them all as a unit, and I'll flip them over and sew them each. So I'll do that and I'll bring it right back. So I basically chain stitched these. I did them all in assembly line fashion, and I'm going to press. I'm just going to finger press at this point. Everything, all the seam allowances are being pressed toward the darker seam. And so these are ready to go, except that I need to make sure to square up each and every unit to 3.5 inches. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to continue on to the 4 patches. All right, I used my rotating mat, my, I guess it's a 6-inch omni-grade ruler, and I squared up each and every one of these units to 3.5 inches. There's not much that comes away, but that's really important that you do remove that. You don't want that in your block. Your blocks will not go together well if you have not removed that. So now let's get on to the 4 patches. Here are the 4 patch units we're going to be putting together. And I have chosen these values. You can certainly swap out values, as I mentioned earlier. But these are the 2 corner units that we're going to be needing. And I've got 2 darks and 2 mediums there. So there's 2 units there. I have 4 units here with 2 mediums, dark, and a light in this 4 patch. So I'm going to go ahead and piece these 4 patches together. There's a total of 6, 4 here, 2 here. I'm going to piece them together, press them, score them up to 3.5 inches. I'll bring them back to the tabletop in just a minute, and then we'll lay the whole block out. I wanted to share with you, as I piece my 4 patch units together, I do them in a sort of a webbing fashion, a chain stitch fashion. I'll start by putting these top 2 together and sew them. And so that matches this one right here. Then I'll grab the next 2 right underneath and I will sew them. And then this is the next unit, and this is the 3rd unit, and this will be the 4th unit. Then I'll come and I'll cut them apart in units. And here we go. I've got this unit here that if I can get my fingers to open it, I'm going to finger press it to the dark seam allowance there. There we go. So that unit is ready to be stitched. Here's another one here. I will open it, finger press. That unit is ready to be stitched. And I just got to make sure that I'm stitching them all on the same side so that they're positioned properly or oriented properly within that 4 patch unit. And there we go. So these are all ready to go. I'm going to stitch on this side and line up I'll nest the seam allowances. For the purposes of this block where there are so many different seams, I have found that it was best just to nest all of the seam allowances. I started on my original block pressing open some of the seam allowances, but it eventually just got, and then I also tried twisting and doing a little pinwheel, and it just got to the point where it was not matching up as nicely. And I found that just simply nesting all of those seam allowances is working out the best for this particular block. I'm going to go ahead and get this unit together, and then I'm going to sew all of these, and that's how I did these units as well. Then I'm going to press them with the iron and square them up to 3.5 inches. I've started to lay out my block here. I realized when I put these 2 corner units together with the dark purple and the purple here, this was supposed to be a light blue to match this, but it's white, and that's how it's going to stay at this point. So do be careful as you're putting these together. If you are actually trying to follow the diagram, just be careful that you're putting the right ones. But these 2 outside corners here, based on this diagram, should have been the light blue, which is what I used here. But anyway, it's a scrappy block. It's going to be just fine. So now what I'm going to be doing here is putting things together. I've got these 2 corner blocks here, these 2 corner blocks here, my diagonal blocks going through the center. Now I'm going to take these 2 units that are following the inside center here, and let's see, I want to make sure I lay them properly based upon, I'm following my diagram here. And all right, so they're going to lay just like that. The blue here and the whites are on the outside there. So that is the center. Now I'm going to follow this diagram and put the rest of these units in here. Let's see if I've got this all correct here. Oops, right here. That's what looked funny. Yep. Now, let's place these last 4 patches. And what makes it kind of easy is that these blues are following a diagonal line. These lights are following a diagonal line. So here we have these lights and these blues, so that kind of helps you put it all together. These outside corners, the darks, are here, and they sit right next to another dark. So you kind of can see that. And there is the block. So what I'm going to do now is web this block together. You have seen me do that in many, many videos of mine, where I start over up in the left-hand corner. For me, this is the top left, and I'm going to place this here, bring it to the machine, sew it, place this one here, bring it to the machine, and continue sewing. I will not cut threads, I'll just continue sewing I'll do the same with this, continue sewing and continue sewing. So I'll have the first 2 columns sewn together. I will bring it back and finger press this section, so I'll have 2 columns all sewn together, so pretend these are sewn together. Then I'm going to do the same with this column. The 3rd column I'm going to add here, just bring it up to the machine, start sewing, bring this one to the machine and continue sewing, so that this 3rd row or column will also be webbed. There's threads that hold the whole thing together. That's hence the name webbed. It's webbed together. And then the last row, of course, I'll do the last row. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then after those columns are webbed together, then I can sew together the rows. When I get that all sewn together, I will bring it back to the tabletop. And we're going to, first of all, I will get it pressed and then squared up to 12.5 inches. Here are 2 of the blocks that I have finished. The fabrics that I used in them are just a little bit different. You can put this block together in a variety of ways. You can have all of these dark squares going in a diagonal this way. You could turn it so you're creating a square here in the center when you have a 4-block unit. You've got another square that will actually end up being right there. That would be pretty. And then these diagonal rows going this way. It's just a wonderful block to create so many secondary patterns. So I highly recommend putting some of these blocks together. The scrappier the better, and then just have fun laying out different designs to decide how you'd like to put the block together, or the quilt together. And if you look at the picture that, the 2nd page of the PDF that I provided you, you'll see there are some secondary designs there. I've got all of the rows going in a diagonal, but you can certainly change that around by swapping out the different blocks within each row, as I've done here. Instead of having everything on a diagonal going like this, you could flip it, and that's how you're going to create a block here and another unit here, and we've got these beautiful diagonal rows. I think it would be beautiful. I can't wait to put something together in using this Steps to Glory pattern. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed putting together the Steps to Glory block. It is a beautiful little block and so easy since it's all squares and rectangles. Just a very easy one to put together, a great beginner one. Speaking of beginner quilts, I do have a beginning quilting class that I have started out on my YouTube channel. So if you or somebody that you know is looking to learn to quilt, I highly recommend that you check that out. I will have the playlist below in the description box where you can check out to the first, I think I have an introduction. Yes, I do have an introduction video as well as part 1 of the beginning quilting class. And it's something that you can take this class at your leisure from the comfort of your home. Whenever you're ready to start the next block, the videos will be there. It is a 13-block series. In fact, the quilt that you see behind me is the part of the quilt that I'll be using for this beginning quilting class. If you do like the content that I provide, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share my videos with friends and family who also like to quilt. Share the videos with your quilt guilds. That really does help my channel if you can like and subscribe and also comment below. I love to read the comments from my viewers. So until next time, next week will be week number 51, and I do have other videos that are coming out this week. So make sure you stay tuned to Quilting with Lori. Again, my name is Lori Dickman, and we'll see you soon. Happy quilting.